All right, we got another episode coming at you of the jankityasspodcast, number 60 this time. Coming at you, continuing on. I just felt a cool breeze in here. Maybe my AC's finally. No, it's not on. I got the window open. Never mind. Welcome back. This is going to be continuing from last week, me and Tom. This time is we get into a lot of Marvel stuff, which is kind of my bread and butter. I think I got to start collecting comics again. I was doing online comics, which is still there. I could probably find a lot of stuff for cheap. Again, I don't know. We'll see. I'll figure it out eventually, but anyways, yeah, again, welcome back. Strap in and keep watching, listening, whatever you do. And if you haven't done so already, well, I'll get the plugs out later again. But go down to the corner, hit like and subscribe to Multi-Murdy Media here on YouTube. You'll get all the channels. And, well, more on that later. But for now, just sit tight and enjoy. Whatever. But also, actually, going back to video games, another thing that I actually just saw when I was waiting for you to log on is they have a Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Yeah, I was just watching some footage of that today, and I was like, okay, this is gonna
probably
be
saw
dumb.
the same video.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
and then the cinematic was like the cinematic work, and you could do the dialogue choices. I was like, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. And then like I saw some of that fighting and the action sequence. It's like, all right. And it's like it looks like they're going more along like the comic line of what's happened. And
Oh yeah.
and also like I'm just really glad they didn't try to like copy exactly what the movie characters were, but just use the movie characters as a reference point. So Quill kind of looks and sounds like his own thing now. Rocket, Groot's got like that armor on him. I don't remember what Gamora was. I don't think I saw the whole video.
That's odd. Well, Gamora's that Gamora is the comic book version because she has like that white armor.
Let me see.
That she normally wears. So that's
Guardians.
That one's actually true. And then, well, the MCU Drax is pretty much the same as the comic book Drax.
Yeah.
And then the only ones that they really changed were, Quill and Rocket. Because in the comics originally, Gamora was... Well, Drax was the same. Gamora used to wear like some kind of like skimpy fucking
probably
stripper outfit type of deal. But like originally in the Guardians, they all wore like a blue like button tunic type of thing with a star on their chest. And then around the same time,
which is where the what's it called? That uniform actually was adapted in the first Guardians movie to be what's the name of the planet that they?
Oh, the Nova.
The novacorps. The
The
novacorps ended up having the blue and gold uniform. So I think that was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not confirmed. I don't know this for sure, but that sounds like that's exactly what they did. Is they incorporated that uniform design for them, which Marvel does all the time. Marvel in all of the MCU movies has like, oh, here's what was in the comics. Here's what we changed for the actual person who had it, and then here's how we also took it again and put it laterally over here. You know, like they do that all the time.
But also,
that's really cool.
In doing that, they also completely removed the comic version of the Nova Corps, unfortunately. But
how do you mean? Oh, just of the design?
Well, no, because the Nova Corps in the books, they weren't guys who flew ships. They were like superhuman.
Really?
They had they were tapped into like this kind of cosmic gestalt called the Nova Force that gave them powers, and they would actually, fly around like rockets and shoot.
So They
shoot
were the
lasers and
Marvel.
shit.
They were the Marvel version of the Green Lantern Corps
Yes.
or the Lantern Corps. Yeah.
But the difference being is that in the comic books, whenever they start to get famous, or their Marvel's way of like really trying to bring them into mainstream is they killed all of them except for the main human who ended up being a novacorps. So then there just ends up being one left, Nova, which is also kind of what they did with the original Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But instead of Ronan and the Kree, they were killed by the Annihilation Wave, who is a I don't know if you ever heard of Annihilus.
Sounds vaguely familiar, actually, but no,
So
not off the top of my head.
he's kind of like he's like a sentient, superpowered insectoid who is from the negative dimension where things don't die. Like there's no death for whatever reason, but there's a massive swarm of basically insects, kind of like the Tyranids, but a little more insecty. And then Annihilus is like the one smart one that actually controls everything. And so they come into the they find a way into like the main galaxy and end up attacking the novacorps' homeworld and kills pretty much all of them except for the comics version, who's Nova.
In the actual MCU, Thanos makes a reference to, or someone makes a reference to how, I think it's Xandar, planet Xandar, Nastar. I can't remember that. Basically, the Nova Corps is destroyed by Thanos.
Well, through Ronan, but yes.
Well, not through Ronan, because Ronan was defeated.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He comes back later and finishes
I don't know what the
the
hell I'm
job.
talking about. Yes.
Well, yeah, no, I mean,
I
clearly
remember now.
you're the one not talking about all of the comics and the backstory and everything.
Hey, I had half a bowl before this. You tried though.
Speaking of Marvel though, and dimensions, this is probably a good segue to talk about. Have you seen
Loki? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And all right. So clearly, here's one of the interesting things about this show to me is that they're probably going to drag in a ton of stuff like the timekeepers. That's gotta be from like something that was already written already. Like it has to be. It like the designs and everything are just like too on the nose, like 80s Marvel and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious. Like I don't know if you know of like if this is like a pure readaptation, kind of like Guardians is, but then they just threw Loki in as the main character instead, or if this is really borrowing from a lot of different things. Like if Loki's like a real amalgamation of something. So like let's just start there. Like based on what you got, what do you think?
So, I've never actually heard of the timekeepers before this show.
Good night, everybody. Just kidding.
No, I think they must have gotten that from like, that would have to be like a really old, obscure type of deal.
Which knowing the people who have been doing this stuff and like absolutely winning it with that, and just like let's take these really weird old ideas that these comics have had, readapt it, and oh look, $3 billion. Look at that. That's pure income. That's pure income, motherfucker. And don't even tell me about royalties.
But also the thing is, like, there's no the whole sacred timeline concept. I think that's something that they made up for the show, because there, as far as I know, there wasn't anything like that in Marvel. There's just kind of always been a multiverse for the most part.
Yeah,
and they don't fight.
Yeah,
there is, however, a major storyline where they all get destroyed and then eventually reconstituted. But
isn't Deadpool involved in that one?
No.
No, okay, I'm thinking Deadpool. Oh, never mind.
There's a spinoff where Deadpool kills
the universe.
Deadpool kills Marvel, but that's not the same thing. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I think they dredged up the timekeepers from. That's got to be something extremely old. And then
It
the whole
has to be.
TVA thing, that's definitely just like, oh, actually, oh shit.
Well, I almost feel like they're
Never
borrowing
mind.
notes too. I also feel like they're borrowing notes a little bit from like SCP, because like SCP's whole thing is like they're. Do you know what SCP is?
Mm-mm.
Secure, Contain, Protect. So it's basically this like copy pasta, creepy pasta fan anthology
Mm.
of this organization whose sole existence is to secure, contain, and protect either people or the things they capture anomalies. And what it boils down to is that it's a bunch of these like short stories written like their documentation, and these anomalies have like different properties, different things. It can be something as stupid as a monkey that claps happy birthday with a bowl of candy in front of it. And you have to take 2 pieces of candy, because if you only take one, you get sick. Or if you take more than two, you lose your hands for stealing. And it's like weird anomalous shit, very Twin Peaks, very like we don't know what's happening, but it's like we figured it out. And so some of the and like certain other ones are like ridiculous, like a soda machine that gives you liquid versions of whatever you want. Like give me liquid gold, it'll pour you liquid
So they
gold.
got
Give
the
me
theater
I know,
almost.
right?
Yeah.
Hey, and then there's like some really intense writing. Like some of it's horror oriented, a lot of it's horror oriented. If you ever want to read like a really good horror story, read the SCP story about the ticket. Oh, that's such a good one. Um, or some of it is like kind of like makes you think. It's kind of like more of a dread versus horror, and like it kind of has like an existential thing to it, and it kind of makes you feel and think about humanity. Um, some are fantastical, like there's one about Cain and Abel, and it's like pretty cool. But one of the common themes I feel like with adaptations of SCP is that because it's such a long time organization, they've been around for a while, but their technology, to a degree, is very much 80s-esque and retro. Because, like in the video game Control, for example, they have old 80s technology because they found if they tried to introduce anything more modern, it would get rejected by the anomaly they lived in. So they couldn't. So, like, they're a secret federal force with like trillions of dollars of funding, but they use mail tubes. It's like stuff like that. It's that like that Contra Twin Peaks design of like modern but retro, but it doesn't act like it's retro. It's not emphasis on that style. It just happens to be that way. And so when it was like when he walked in, I just immediately got those vibes of like Control, SCP, Twin Peaks a little bit. It was interesting. And it feels like that this is what this show is going to kind of be like, this kind of like time thriller, maybe some genre bending when it comes to certain episodes of like where he goes in the timeline. But I don't know. I've been spatting away. What do you think?
It was funny that they had threw in the little DB Cooper bit. I thought that
Oh,
was
that
gonna be
was
something that
hilarious.
I thought that was gonna be something that comes in later, but no. What I am more familiar with is the whole story of kind of Loki dying and then being reborn, because
Oh yeah.
that but in a more skewed way,
Well,
because
he becomes a chick when he gets reborn, right?
the
Kind
first
of.
the first time, yes, not the second time. I'm
Ah,
thinking
okay.
more the second time. No, actually, what you're alluding to. Okay, all right, here we go.
Here we go. Do it up.
So, you've obviously seen Civil War already,
Yeah. I mean, I've seen all of them. I
which
rewatched
is
all of them because
yeah.
I walk my son at night sometimes.
Okay, so that movie is a diluted version of what happens in the comics,
Right.
because
It's a
obviously in the comics you have hundreds of superheroes and villains, and then they all kind of become embroiled in this thing.
Yeah, there's like
Right.
it's like a what? It's a six-part series, isn't it? I think there's 6 novels.
Not including the tie-in issues of like all the other
Yeah.
Marvel series involved.
Yeah,
So
right, exactly.
When you say
Because
six, it's more like a 60-part
yeah,
novel.
I
But
guess I am thinking of like 6 main story. Like this, like the main storyline is 6 novels. I thought I remember reading it or starting to read it way back in college, and I don't remember if I finished it or not. I have flash memories of like Maria Hill with green hair and Spider-Man with the iron spider suit and like a sewer. It's been a long time.
That's
like
old stuff.
Yeah.
Unrelated. But no, so kind of leading up to the whole Civil War thing, there's other really massive things that kind of happen in the Marvel universe. There's so first the first major thing that kind of happens before that is Ragnarok, actually, where Surtur comes up, destroys Asgard, and kills every Asgardian, which and the thing is like nobody else in the Marvel universe has any idea that this happened. So as far as the Avengers are concerned, Thor just goes missing. They have no idea where he is at all. But also what you end up learning later is because they took a they kind of ended the Thor series, and then I think they picked it up a year later, because what you learn from that is that immortal beings and deities, they aren't necessarily completely destroyed when their physical bodies die.
They're just like deconstituted.
Yeah, and then they eventually kind of come back, where whenever Thor picks up again, he's in he's like in limbo, and eventually manages to bargain his way out, and he finds that the spirits of the other Asgardians are basically just in like other human beings, or have created and inhabited human bodies, but they have no idea of who they are. Whereas Loki, on the other hand, somehow does manage to completely bring his conscience back.
I mean, he would be the first one to figure that kind of crap out.
But he ended up in like a female body for whatever reason. So that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
But then also, so after Ragnarok happens, then there's the Avengers Disassembled, in where the Scarlet Witch, who is an Avenger at this time, she, for some reason, which you find out much later, goes insane. Where she now you've seen WandaVision, so this is where this is actually going to come in. She somehow, for some reason, believes that she had 2 sons, and then that they suddenly disappeared.
Yeah.
So then she goes insane, and it causes and well, since she has powers over reality, she somehow manifests like an alien attack on New York City that kills Hawkeye, and then also causes She-Hulk to go insane, and she destroys the Vision in that. And so then everybody's
That's
just
so weird how they readapted that. That's interesting.
Yeah, there you go. So then the Avengers basically just split up after that, because it's everybody just completely fucked up. And then also at the same time, House of M happens, or after that, House of M happens because Magneto somehow manages to
right, because in this case they're still connected in those 2 universes. We don't have that divide of storylines.
But then so in House of M,
fuck you, Sony, or whoever it was, Fox.
Well, Magneto and Quicksilver managed to take her away, and then for whatever reason, she ends up she changes the reality of the entire Earth to where I don't remember exactly how it works. But basically, like, the mutants are the rulers of the world.
Oh, nice.
And she at that time also brings Hawkeye back, but then like something happens.
Something dark side.
Magneto tries to kill everybody for some reason.
Because Magneto?
Also ends up killing Hawkeye again. This fucks him up for a while.
Hey
'Cause
guys, I'm back.
he does
Oh,
come back
fuck.
later, but then at the end of House of M, Scarlet Witch just decides, you know what, I'm just gonna get rid of all the mutants in the world,
They're the problem. They're the real
except
problem.
except for somehow she misses the X-Men or most of them and like a lot of the Brotherhood completely
Maybe
for
because
whatever
of
reason.
Charles Xavier. Maybe he like intervenes and is like, "Hey, you're forgetting about this, you cosmic power of witchdom."
I have no idea, but
I mean,
yeah,
there is. I mean, that's one thing people always have to remember about reading the comics. There is a shit ton of Deus Ex Machina in those books. Like, good God, it is bonkers.
yeah. But then yeah, so all that happens, and then some other things happen, and like most of the Avengers decide to sort of reform again, because I guess before at the time they were sort of like an agency under Shield or
Yeah,
the
and
government or something like that.
that's
Yeah.
kind of how they're painted a little bit in the movies too, like related but separate.
Right. But then yeah, so then they start the new Avengers series where Tony's like, basically, you know what, I'm a millionaire. How about you guys just come live in my house and we just start doing this independently, right?
Yeah.
And then yada yada, some shit gets pulling up. That's when Civil War starts.
Right.
And then that is so it starts and ends, but that's actually the beginning of a larger series, which ends up being called the Dark Saga.
I do remember that.
Okay, so after Civil War, then after Civil War, then you also learn about the if you get deep into the comics, you also learn about the Illuminati, who is made up of Iron Man, Xavier, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and
Doctor Strange checks out.
someone else. But and they actually formed so before, there was an older comic series, which was the Kree Skrull Wars, where basically the Kree and the Skrull race bring their intergalactic war to Earth for whatever reason, and that's also like the first time that you find out about aliens at all.
Okay.
But then so then you have the Illuminati series that kind of goes back, and apparently all these guys Reed Richards was the fifth one.
That's Captain Fantastic, right?
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic.
Mr.
Mr.
Fantastic.
Fantastic to you.
Sorry.
No. But so they apparently get together and decide, like, hey man, we really need to do something about this. And they kind of end up somehow traveling into deep space to the Kree home world and sort of take out the Kree general. But then they start doing other things like, you know, hey, maybe we should
Help people.
well no, like, hey, maybe we should we should deal with and also Black Bolt was number 6, who's the king of the Inhumans. But so they decide, like, hey, we should take on major things and try to deal with like massive existential threats. So like somehow at one point, like they secure the Earth from the Celestials so that they don't come in and destroy everything. They did something with Galactus, and they also like somehow managed to collect and hoard the Infinity Stones and kind of lock them away for a while. But let's see. So you learn about the Illuminati, and they're going to the Skrull planet and basically killing their warlord over there. That leads into Secret Invasion in the comics.
Oh.
Yes, which is coming soon. But again, remember, the MCU Skrulls are completely different from the Marvel Skrulls. They're not like nice in the comics at all.
No, I know. They're deserving of the reputation they're accused of.
Right.
Yeah.
But so what happens in the comics after the Illuminati comes in and kind of fucks things up, and then they leave, and then apparently Galactus shows up and destroys the Skrull homeworld. So the few surviving Skrulls that's left, and the Skrull Queen, who somehow manages to survive, they come to Earth and start replacing people. And then that kind of comes into fruition.
Body snatchers.
Yeah, and then that's what the secret invasion is, where suddenly I don't remember how this happens, but they somehow find out that the Skrulls have actually replaced like a fourth of all the heroes on Earth.
Oh damn!
And villains and like a bunch of other people, and it just ends up in a massive type of brawl. But so this is where it really kind of goes into the Dark Saga, where it really takes a turn. Is Harry Osborn or the Green Goblin, who is reformed at the time, like somehow he's like, I'm not angry or schizophrenic, I don't turn into the Goblin anymore.
I am bad, yo.
Yeah, but he's still like a defense contractor of somehow. He ends up killing the Skrull Queen. And
okay.
And like literally just, bang, snipes her out or whatever. And
okay.
Yeah, so then doing this, because he's still a bad guy, keep in mind.
Yeah.
Or no, I remember, because he was actually one of the Thunderbolts, which is kind of like Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. Yeah. So they show up in like the end battle of Secret Invasion. He manages to kill the Skrull Queen, and then because he's still also kind of like a defense contractor or whatever with his connections or however, he somehow manages to spin a case where Iron Man or Tony Stark and like his friends knew about this or whatever.
So he frames them.
Yes. Like okay. It's somehow their fault that the aliens are here, because it's always the Avengers' fault that aliens and bad guys and all this shit starts happening.
Which is a common theme in the movies, actually. Yes.
And also keep in mind, at this time, this was after the end of Civil War, so all the the non-conforming people, so Captain America's crew, they're still on the lam. Yeah. And now Osborn manages to become the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. through this happening, because Nick Fury had already been out. Maria Hill was already out. So now all of the Avengers are like in hiding after this.
Okay, so this has been one hell of a tangent on our part, but I'm glad I'm glad we did it, because it's like it's cool to flex comic book knowledge, but also like it makes total sense what they did with the movies. It makes total, absolute fucking goddamn sense. And here's the thing. As somebody who's already got a proclivity to that shit, like, all of that's so cool to listen to, and it's like, I get it, and I'm like, oh, these twisted turns, oh my god, it's like a soap opera for nerds in a way. It's like better than that, but it's not. And so like I could see them taking like a lot of like they're like I'm hearing a lot of story concepts where it's like that's where they got this idea and that's where they got this idea, and they like bastardize a lot of different things for the MCU. And I'm glad they did, because if they hadn't, then the MCU would be terrible because of the medium that it's in. That said, I firmly believe, having heard all that, there's a shit ton of grognards out there who are pissed as hell at the Marvel Cinematic. Like, they're like, they didn't do this, this is what they do with the Skrulls and blah blah blah. And it's like, dude, asshole, like they can't. What are you gonna do? Like, they can't do everything here.
Well, they stopped watching after the first Avengers, so who cares?
Oh, good. Right. Fuck them.
And also, I'm not even close to being done yet, so.
I know. But, I just want to take that moment.
Yeah, so Osborn takes over the Avengers, or S.H.I.E.L.D. actually, and then turns it into Hammer. So there's that.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
And let's see. Then he creates the Dark Avengers.
He does that?
Yes. That's where the Dark Avengers comes from.
Shit.
I
Okay.
don't entirely remember who all is in there, but one of the big ones that he gets was a character called the Sentry. I don't know if you heard about this guy. He's he's like he wears like a yellow jumpsuit and a cape and has like blonde hair. And
No.
from what I understand, this wasn't a character that Marvel actually made, but they acquired through like buying out another comic company
Oh,
from back in
interesting.
the day. And then the way that they introduced this character is he's like the man with the power of 1,000 suns, or whatever. That's the
Okay.
tagline. But the thing
Yeah.
is he's so insanely powerful, and what you later find out is that he had like his villain was like, well, I don't remember. It was some dude that was just called the General, who I think is also an acquired character from Marvel.
Okay.
But he apparently somehow he defeated the Sentry by hiring the services of one of the Brotherhood mutants who
Okay.
could kind of control minds, and he mind controlled the Sentry to make everyone in the world, including himself, to forget who he was. So that's why he like didn't exist before. But then,
you could
Right.
Deus Ex Machina an intro as well as a plot.
but at this time at the time of the after the secret invasion, he somehow manages to kind of jostle himself back into reality or whatever. Oh no, I remember it was that, and no, I butchered it. What they managed to get him to do was to believe that that all the evil in the world was like a manifestation of his darker self. And in order for the Sentry to kind of defeat himself, he made the entire world and himself forget about himself. That's what it was. So then,
okay. Interesting.
they had found the Sentry before the secret invasion, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of trying to help him mentally rehabilitate himself. But then Osborn ends up taking over, and he kind of fixes the Sentry, but basically
Right.
saying like, oh, this evil version of yourself, that's just another part of you. Just accept it.
Oh, so he spins the lie into part of the reality.
Right.
Interesting.
Which stabilizes him, but also sort of makes him into a bad guy
Nice.
in the end.
Nice.
Okay, so this happens. The Avengers are in hiding. There's like a couple years worth of books and series that are happening during this time. But
Sure.
then also at this time, Thor manages to find all the Asgardians and manages to reconstitute Asgard on Earth, like literally in the Midwest. It's just like it ends up being like a floating castle city, just kind of over some farmland. Whereas the actual dimension of Asgard is just a ruin.
Right.
Right. So, then the Dark series saga wraps up when Osborn decides, hey, this Asgard over here, they're basically a bunch of aliens, and they could destroy everybody whenever they wanted to. So we
They're
need
gonna
to go.
take our job.
Yeah, we need to go and take them out. So then this kind of ends up being like the final fight where everybody shows up, right? Like all the Asgardians, all the Avengers,
There's
even
always
the
one.
X-Men, and then they're fighting against the Dark Avengers and a bunch of other villains in Hammer or whatever. And also Loki was one of the bad guys
Of course.
at this time as well.
Right.
But then towards the end, the sentry goes just completely berserk, right?
Okay.
And he destroys Asgard again. Like, just by himself.
Right.
And
yeah.
so then what happens is, at that time, that's when Loki realizes, like, oh, we really fucked up by putting Osborn and these people into power. He tries to stop the Sentry himself and just gets annihilated, dies. And then Thor manages to kill the Sentry. Osborn gets arrested after it, like, everybody's put down. The good guys finally win again. But then the point being is that, again, Loki, being a deity, since only his physical form was destroyed, he is like, he's reborn again in like some other realm and kind of comes back. And I think that's sort of where the Loki series is doing.
Well, and they've also shown Loki cheat death a number of times. And so it's kind of funny that they take advantage of the fact that the Avengers go back, do their whole time thing, and he grabs the stone and is just like, yeet. And it's almost like him, because that's technically
winning the lottery. Yeah,
I know that's not even the same Loki that we know from the end, right?
Right.
The final Loki that we see in Infinity War, he actually dies. Like, they make it clear he's actually dead. Every other time Loki dies, he's faked it. And it's, of course, when Loki's finally a good person doing the right thing is when he dies. So now they have this new Loki who is technically one of the versions of himself that didn't make it to that point.
It's still a shithead, yeah.
It's still a shithead, but like in the first episode, without spoiling too much, he kind of sees, wait, I saw what I became, and it is possible for me to be better. It is possible for me to be a good person. But because he's still his kind of asshole self, now he like more truly is like an anti-hero, because he wants to do the right thing, but he's going to do it his own little chaosy fun way. And like, and I'm like actually really impressed with the way they spun that. And then the without spoiling it, the end of the reveal, the end episode reveal kind of made it like, ooh, interesting. What's going to happen? Like, what's going to go on? Like, I don't know. It was a twist that I didn't expect. Again, I mean, I don't have as much comic book knowledge, so I could have had maybe some guesses had I had, but it seemed like that was, given that this seemed like its own series anyway, that seemed like an interesting twist.
Yeah, it's definitely very similar with what they did with the books, because whenever the Sentry kills Loki, that's actually the first time that he actually dies.
Mm-hmm.
But but then the idea is, whenever he is reborn, it's like before he was turned to evil. If you know what I mean, because like the whole idea too is that, because he wasn't like a baby when he was stolen in the comics. He actually, like,
was he an adolescent?
Had his childhood with the Frost Giants, who were basically shitty parents. Yeah, and also at some point, like before all this happens too, whenever Thor manages to bring back all the Asgardians, and he even gets Loki back into his like normal man self or whatever. At some point, Loki manages to like travel back in time to his childhood and ends up killing Laufey himself, like a sort of a rage cage therapy sort of thing.
That's kind of therapy.
And he somehow also knows that, like, it won't screw up the timeline, or like he already figured out that he had done it before, like that's his time loop, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I read a lot of comics during back when I was still working at Stereo D. So I was using the Comixology app, and
okay.
Yeah, you just buy them online. They were like $2 an issue or whatever. But I kind of stopped because I wasn't making as much money. But I might go back and like pick up some stuff again, because this was back in 2014 that I kind of stopped getting new stuff. So I have a ways to catch up.
Yeah. No, I mean there's been a lot more stuff that's come out since then, I guarantee you.
Oh yeah. But also the good news being is I did figure out how to make quite a bit more money now. So
Oh, there you go.
that helps. Which actually that was I am no longer I'm no longer a Postmates driver anymore.
Really?
I'm Uber Eats now. Actually, because they made us all switch over finally.
That sounds like that meme where it's like, Ranjiv is no longer my best friend. It is now David.
Yes.
David is now my best friend.
I remember. I can't find that one anywhere. I haven't seen it in a while. But yeah, that was hilarious.
It hasn't been used in a while, but that's basically what that sounded like.
But yeah, no, because I mean, Uber's owned Postmates for at least a couple years now, more.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So does that mean that Postmates officially just doesn't exist anymore?
No, they still do, but the app itself is. Well, they also changed the customer app too, so it's a lot more like the Uber Eats app.
Oh,
But-
interesting.
So, but it's nice because as a driver, well, just right off the bat, everything's worth more, right? Like every job is worth more.
Interesting.
And then they also they also made it now where as a customer you have to tip in order to place an order. So
Really?
yeah, so I'm a lot more likely to get stuff, and they also kind of I get paid based on like a low estimate, so that also protects me from the people who, instead of doing the percentages, are just like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna select other and do like $1 to $2, right? So I'll always get a little bit more than that, and then the incentives are where it gets really nice, where instead of being a guaranteed amount like they used to do with Postmates, it's an added amount based on how many trips you do.
Oh, so the more time you put in, the more you get back, as opposed to a common baseline.
Right. So now, if I do about 3 hours of work or 10 trips, I average to about $100 before taxes. Now, on Saturdays and Sundays, I mean,
Probably explodes.
it changes. Well, it changes week to week, but they have an incentive where if I do like, it's usually like between 33 or 35 trips during that day, that's an extra $100. Which usually takes me about 9. I tried it out this weekend finally for the first time. That usually takes me like between 9 and 10 hours to do.
So $100 on top of 9 to 10 hours of work, which is bringing you like.
So I totaled out to over 400, both Saturday
day.
and Sunday
Wait, per day, 400 per day.
per day.
That's pretty damn good, son.
If I hit that, so that's 800 just in 2 days. And then if I work like a couple more, like another day and a half, I can get my total up to like
Probably.
1,200 for the week.
That ain't bad. 1,200 a week, $2,400 per 2 weeks, dude. That's like an 8 before taxes. That's like it's like a $95,000 job. That's like
Well, not that much. It was
it's pretty damn close.
it was over $4,000. Well over.
Let's put it this way: if you're making 2,400 every 2 weeks.
48. Yeah.
Wait, no, I did my math so wrong. What am I thinking?
Yeah. 12 times 4. 48.
No, I was doing your annual.
Oh.
I was doing your annual. I was way wrong. No, it was yeah, that's like, yeah, you're making over, that's 60, that's over 60K plus. That's pretty good for what, for 4 days a week. That's pretty good. I mean,
More like 3.5.
3.5, 3.5. I mean, the problem is that your big money days are weekends, and those are long weekends. So,
Yeah.
like for you, taking a vacation means if you're going to be gone the weekend, then you need to make up for it by working like a full week, like a Monday to Friday gig, and then into a Saturday, Sunday to get back on your normal pace. So it's got its pros and cons. But if you don't take time off, if you don't do your vacations during weekends, power to you.
But I mean, also at the same time, though, like I can very easily, if I really decide to go all out, I can easily make like a $200 day.
Well, the other thing too
no
is
issue.
like, oh yeah, no, I mean it sounds like weekends are your double days.
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing too is like, you can also work remotely. Technically, I mean, you can, right? Are you restricted by region? Can you just like, turning my driver app on in some other place I don't normally live in?
That I'm not entirely sure. I
That'd be
don't
worth
think
checking
so.
out. Because, like, for example, like what I do, I'm able to work remote, and I'm at a point where, where there's still no requirement to be in the office, and I'm at the lowest time zone. So if I travel anywhere, it'll only be better for working with everyone else, technically.
Right.
So there's a couple trips we're planning, to take as a fam, and I'm able to not have to take time off. Now I'll take some time off because it's like, okay, I want a couple of days where I don't have to worry about work. The other days is like log in at 7:30, clock out at 4:30 or 3:30, and I'm good to go. And the way my family works is like my immediate family, not my family, but my immediate family, like we're all afternoon night owls anyway, so like none of the fun shit happens during the day. And then with my kids, it's like, well, I could take breaks. I could maybe like go, like if we're at the beach, I can go do my lunchtime with them on the beach, or if I can take little breaks here and there, or go see them. But I do that. It's like I do that here. Like I'm over there and then I'm working, and then I'll come over and I'll pop in for like 5 or 10 minutes and play with them, and then be like, all right, well, I'm gonna go back over here and be a working absentee dad. Thanks. Like it just depends.
Yeah.
So.
I mean,
yeah,
I think
we're working remote. You could work remote, I think. I'd check it.
Well, also at the same time though, is I can easily just plan around it and go all out, and
it
wouldn't even matter.
Well, and that's exactly. You could do
You
could do the opposite of what I said, which is like, instead of doing recuperative work, you're doing prep work. Going out next weekend. I just worked this weekend and Monday, which is my days that I normally work. But I'm going to be gone next weekend, so I'm going to work like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But like the more days you add on, the more like you just have to hit a certain number of hours or a certain number of trips, and it breaks it up. Or you could go full gung ho on like 2 additional days during the week, or maybe 3, So there's different ways to tackle it. But like, I gotta say, man, like it must take a lot of like self-control to like keep your own schedule, right? Like, how do you determine? Do you just like decide to float your days during the week? Like, oh, I normally work on Tuesdays, but today I'm gonna do whatever I want. Or is like you religiously stick to your schedule? Like, how do you do it? Because I feel like I'd be really bad at it, honestly. Like I really do.
Well, one thing I noticed since switching over is I feel like because even whenever I was doing the Postmates thing, the time would just go really fast, right?
Okay.
And I feel since switching over, and just the fact that I know even before I figured out this whole thing about the weekends, just the fact that I was making more money off the top, it just became less tiring for me.
Because you knew your time was being spent more, you didn't feel the drag.
My time was worth more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, oh shit, I'm making money. You're driving all over town.
Isn't that funny how that works? Yeah. You give people incentive and they do their job better.
And I also figured out the secret for the
I
weekends
really want
is-
McDonald's right now for some reason.
Also, and also they offer like better surge earnings.
Surge rates.
Yeah, depending on where you are. So they don't, but they do have like some like minor multipliers that they schedule for certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also just like a base add-on based on like a 2-week prediction depending on the area that you're in. So it literally looks like just like a fucking weather map. So like, and I also found out the secret to hitting a trip quota, if you want to, is to work up here in the valley, because the traffic and the distances.
Did you say quota, or did you just do a Boston quota?
Quota.
A quota. It sounded like you were talking about. Yeah, it sounded like you were talking Boston for a second. Like, hey man, you got a quota? Gotta buy a newspaper over here. Fucking Celtics reviews up.
Yeah.
Fucking understand any of that shit. Fucking
But,
this
I mean-
guy right here. He knows. He fucking knows.
But no,
Sorry,
the distances and the traffic aren't as bad up here. So like I can actually hit
Which
that
is
30.
funny because considering you're saying, I mean,
Yeah.
this is the LA area we're talking about.
It's the Valley, LA,
Yeah.
and it's not as opposed to like West Hollywood and like everything between, well, really anything between Santa Monica and downtown. That's all kind of screwy.
It's all bullshit.
And all the cars are back now.
Yeah.
It's all back.
It's all back.
But also at the same time, is those areas are higher demand, so they're usually worth more money. So like when it gets to like really peak dinner time,
Mm-hmm.
it's like an extra $5 a trip.
That's pretty good.
But I'm also only
Taking longer.
averaging like 2 to 3 an hour.
So it kind of goes out in the wash a bit.
Yeah. So like if I do like stuff during the week, you know, who cares? I can work anywhere, but those weekend ones, I definitely want to stay here in the valley because then I actually hit them. But yeah, it works. I figured that out.
I mean,
So-
that's awesome that that it's working out for you better now. I mean, that's always great. Like when I switched jobs just recently, we're getting a little bit more money, but like it's one of those things where you see mathematical or an additional difference. It's like I'm making X plus more, but then once you incorporate taxes and this and that, you're like, oh, it's only this much more per paycheck, and I'm like, oh shit. So like we're trying to think of like different ways, but like I know basically what my plan is. Some of my in-laws are in like compensation analysis and in HR, like literally they're married to each other. It's kind of funny. And we were over to see them. They had their kid, like every kid recently, and we were over to see them. We like did dinner and drinks and stuff, and they were like, oh yeah, like if you want more money, because I was like telling them about my new job, and I was like, yeah, I feel like I could have gotten more, and they're both like, oh, they freaking jumped on it. They're like, oh, if you want more money, like, you know, in like traditional blue collar or white collar job, like you want more money, you put your 3 or 6 months in, whatever it is, and then you just go up and you say, hey, I'm worth this much more. I would like this much more money, and here are my reasons. This, and you just document all of your successes. You don't be an asshole about it. You just say like, oh hey, do all this, and yeah, I like more money, please, because they're not gonna give you more money if they don't have to. That's not their job. And most places, if they tell you no to any amount, because like some places will haggle with you, they'll be like, okay, we can't give you that much, but here's this, like, here you go, like, we do agree with you, we can't give you what you want, but we can give you this. Then it's like, okay, they're trying to work with you. But places will never just outright refuse you, because if they do, then they're giving you a reason to leave, and that means they've wasted all of that money on you short term, which is like terrible. Like I think it's something like new hires or new companies will get like, what is it? It's like 6 months or something like that. It's like it takes 6 months for someone to actually earn back the money that was spent back on them, or to get up to speed on their job, depending upon what industry you look at, which means they only really are a worthwhile investment as a resource. And yes, sometimes it is necessary to consider people as resources. You can still consider people resources and people at the same time. It is possible. We haven't been taught how to do it. for 2.5, 3 years, maybe 4. Again, just depends on industry, depends on jobs, specialties, everything. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. All this is interesting. Also, my booze is starting to kick in, so that's why I'm hitting my bowl moment that you had just before. So there you go.
So then I was fired.
I was fired. No, I haven't. No, I'll wait. It's basically I'll throw him a bit in a bit and be like, hey. So you know how you just hired me and I'm doing all this stuff?
Yeah, give him a minute.
What did the great man say? Pay me my money in cash.
Yeah.
That's an old reference.
Are you listening to this show and thinking, man, I'd like to start a podcast, but I don't even know where to start? Well, Buzzsprout has the answers for you. Buzzsprout is a podcast hosting service that provides a number of valuable resources to help you on your podcasting career path. For one, Buzzsprout offers indefinite hosting of all your episodes and allows you to host as much material as you want, depending on the type of subscription that you opt for. Buzzsprout also provides a means for getting your show hosted to every major podcasting platforms such as iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, you name it. In addition, Buzzsprout also provides various means to get your show monetized through various sponsorship and affiliate programs, links to other paid hosting platforms such as Patreon and YouTube, and your own personal newsroom to learn all the tips and tricks for optimizing your podcast for the greatest return on your investment. If you're hearing all this and you're still interested, you can go to my link below and receive an Amazon gift card for starting a podcast hosting subscription that you'll receive on the second billing period of your podcast journey. Everyone has something to share, and there's no time like the present. Join Buzzsprout today. Well, I hope I didn't scare off too many of y'alls, especially if some of you are DC fans instead of Marvel fans, but, well, I don't know, I feel like you should either be, like, just a Marvel fan or a fan of both, which, I don't know, I feel like anybody who says, like, oh, I'm a DC fan, well, no, and you're probably really just a Batman fanboy. Anyway, which, I mean, everybody likes Batman, but there's so much more, you know? Or at least they feel like they somehow relate to Batman more than, like, any other hero, even though he's literally a fucking billionaire who is the most unrelatable type of person there is, almost, next to, like, an alien with that isn't even humanoid or something like that. Well, whatever. Anyways, as always, thank you for watching or listening, and definitely thank you for downloading. That helps me too, as a matter of fact. Which, that's, if you're listening, please, just have it on auto-download. If you subscribe and you don't fuck with your whatchamacallits, your options. The downloads are the metrics for me, so, yeah. Not begging, but do it. I'm demanding. How about that? As always, go down to this corner, actually, like and subscribe, Multi-Murdy Media. You will get this channel, which is the jankityasspodcast in video form. You will get also Gutsy Ass Gamer. I got a new playlist coming up, which I think I mentioned already, or else I mentioned it in the next week's episode, maybe. But I started playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. No, I mentioned it in last week, actually. Now I remember. I'm doing this all out of order, but so I got a new playlist coming up, and it's all video games, Twitch, yada yada. I'm actually going to be working on those episodes in a minute here after I'm done recording some of this shit. And then you will also get Poncho's Paint Booth playlist, which I got some catching up to do, but I do have some more episodes coming out soonish, hopefully. We'll see. Well, I mean, they are coming out. I might spread them out a little bit more, just depending, because I haven't quite been able to get to them as much as I would like to. But anyways, and then also, if you want to follow me on Multi-Murdy Media on Instagram and Facebook, you'll get on Instagram you get updates to all the shows as they come out. On Facebook, I'm actually able to put the YouTube links in there, so you can go straight to the video version of whatever show that I put out, and usually about like a day or two after I upload stuff. I mean, this is kind of, it's starting to become like a bit of a full-time job, but I also make more money, as I mentioned, not this episode, but next week. So things are starting to go better for me for now, more or less. That being said, also Multi-Murdy Media on TikTok. I've been uploading highlights from both the Gutsy Ass and the Paint Booth videos. Fun stuff there. So I gotta put some more up in a minute here as well. Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and get that loaded up, just so I don't forget, you know. Okay. And then, of course, multimurdymedia.com. That's my website. Has links to everything, including all the shows, all my socials, or, well, my business socials, I should say. Nothing personal. Nothing personal. But, and I also got my model gallery up there, speaking of Poncho's Paint Booth. So you can see, like, all my hobby work without, if you just want to see the images or whatever. And yeah, anything I do is going to be up there, including like anything I do in the future. I haven't quite figured it out yet. We'll see. You know, I got the groundwork done, basically. And then last but not least, if you prefer listening to this in audio only, the Jankety Ass Podcast is available on pretty much every major podcasting platform. So that's your iTunes, your Spotify, your Pandora, yada yada. So, and a bunch of other ones in between. So you got no excuse. And thankfully, because of my hosting service, Buzzsprout, I get the links to, or not the links, I get the stats for everything. So, you know, do me a solid, keep that auto download running. And, well, I'll see you guys all next week.